A woman's body count matters more than a man's. We'll start by bringing up everyone that agrees now. I'm going to start with you.
This is not to disregard the fact that men can be sluts. That's not what I'm trying to say, but honestly, when I think about it, women mature a lot faster. Women really know what they're doing, and I don't mean to shame or anything like that, but I feel like it gets to a point. But personally, I feel like when it comes to like sexual relationships and sexual intimacy, that's supposed to be with somebody that you truly feel intimate with, and I know that not a lot of men feel that way, honestly, and they'll probably lay down with anything. But I feel like as a woman, you know who you want to give your body to and who you don't want to give your body to. So it's like when you're going outside of that comfort zone so much, or you've built this like tolerance to just sex to where it means absolutely nothing to you, it's like that. I don't think that's a good sign. So no, I'm not trying to say that like a woman's value diminishes the more bodies that she has or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like as a woman, you are kind of held to this standard. Like you should hold yourself to a standard is really what I should be saying. Like you should know not everybody needs to see your body. Not everybody needs to be in your body. Not everybody needs to
Mm-hmm.
know who you are on a personal and on an intimate level because as a woman that's supposed to be reserved for your man. You feel me? So maybe if all your sexual relationships have been inside of intimate real relationships, yes, but when you just out and about and just and ducking, I can't support that. I guess that's my opinion on it.
Okay. And is there any one of you gentlemen that's ready to just get going?
Yeah, I'll get it going. I feel like a key that opens a lot of locks
Oh,
is a master key, and a lock that opens for any keys is a lock. So, do what you want with that.
So I'll chime off of that just because it's really simply put. There's a lot of things that you could talk about in this conversation, but women control the sexual market, they control the dating scene. So if you are in control of that situation or that scene, if you're allowing yourself to have a multitude of men come into your life, have sex with you, and then they leave you, yeah, that's a red flag for a man who's looking for a woman with a lower body count. Now, with that being said, to add on top of that, statistically speaking, women who sleep with men, like 5 men or more, are more likely to divorce in their first marriage. It's like
Mm-hmm.
almost, I think, up to 80%.
where's that stat from?
Oh, well, we can pull it up after. That's fine.
Okay, I got
There's
you.
there's
I'm
a
like,
multitude of different
oh.
statistics that back that up. But yeah, I mean, end of the story, like a key that opens up a bunch of locks, like they present a ton of value. So, and I would like to refute off of what you said. You said that men can be sluts, and I would disagree with that. I would say men are the makers because at the end of the day, a man has a ton of value. He's going to be able to be with a ton of women, right? But they're presenting themselves to him. Because at the end of the day, like in today's dating market, sexual market, women control it. So if men have that value and they're having sex with a lot of women, yeah, their body count isn't going to matter necessarily, to other men. But a lot of men in that way would look up to them and be like, dang, he gets a lot of women, so he has value. And then the same thing with women. They're going to look at him and be like, dang, a lot of women want him. So like, what does he present that allows him to obtain this many women? So yes, in that regard.
I think I might.
He's right. Basically, if a woman has slept with a lot of men, the first thing her friends say to her is, "You're a hoe, you're a this, you're a slut." So they look down upon it because deep down they know that being promiscuous isn't ideal. Whereas I've never heard in modern society, I've never heard a man that slept with a lot of women and the men around him say, "Damn, you're a hoe, you're a slut." They don't even care. Like, it's not even a big thing because, like he says, a man that usually is getting a lot of women has some sort of value. So that is why it matters, I guess, more if a woman has a higher body count than a man. Also, he almost touched on it, but at the end of the day, women set the standard when it comes to sex. If they didn't want men to be whores or sluts or whatever, then if all women never had sex until they got married, there wouldn't be men that had a lot of sex with a lot of women. It's the fact that women make it so easy to have sex nowadays, where you can even have sex with a woman that you don't even know within the first date, maximum maybe 3 dates. Within that time frame, most likely the woman is gonna give it up. So if she didn't give it up within the first 3 dates, then the man would actually have to come with some sort of value in order to get the woman and in order to get the sex. So yeah.
I have to just disagree with that just for a second. And I know I moved up here, so I know that I agree with the prompt, but I just have to disagree with that in a sense, because if I get with a man and I ask him, like, mind you, body count does not necessarily mean too much to me, but it means a little bit, you feel me? So it's like, if I get with a man and I'm like, what's your body count? And he's like, 25. I'm like, dang, it's only 4 seasons in a year.
Yeah, but think about it like this. Because women, they say that they care, but let's just even use this lady as an example. If Chris Brown said, hey, I want to marry you, and he says, I have 1,000 bodies, I don't think she's saying no. Or if this man is a millionaire and he's attractive in her eyes, and she asks him what is his body count, and he says 25, that's not making a difference. It's not making any difference. Maybe if she was really religious, potentially, but most likely it's not making a difference. Whereas, from the man's perspective, if he asks her, how many bodies have you got? And she says 25, oof, that's gonna hit the man like a truck. And he is not, most likely that is going to steer him away from marrying her. He might, and he probably will, get with her, maybe date her, but she'll be classified and she'll be put into the category of side piece. Every man knows this. As soon as he finds out that her body count is high, she is for recreational use, because no man wants to marry and spend the rest of his life with a woman that has been intimate and bonded with 25 other men. He doesn't want that. And like that gentleman mentions, there's gonna be a higher likelihood that she cheats or divorces the man, and that's just not the investment a man wants to make into a woman. If she has been promiscuous in her past behavior usually is a good predictor of her future behavior. She's not going to be promiscuous for 5 years, 10 years, and then all of a sudden once she gets married she's just going to stop being promiscuous. It doesn't work like that. If you practice a habit, it doesn't just stop. So yeah, let's carry on.
You only 25 years old yourself. So it just makes me think, like, what situations could you have possibly put yourself into that you would have gave yourself up that much? Because I do think that a man's body count matters. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but I'm saying, like, at the same way that I'm supposed to value myself and who I give my body to, as a man, that doesn't mean that you don't supposed to value yourself as well.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. I think a majority of men do like try to conserve their body count to be low, but a lot of people don't. In today's society, a lot of times you see people go out to the clubs and enjoy that nightlife, and that's what they do. Now, I'm talking in a general perspective. This isn't a personal perspective. So personally for me, yeah, low body count for myself, but I'm saying in general, most women are going to inherently, it's something to be wary of, is your body count, because a lot of men who are conservative, who are religious, they're gonna look at you and be like, well, if you got 10 bodies, like, why would I marry you? Like,
Exactly.
there's no need to do that. So yeah.
That's what I would speak on. Is like when you sit there and you think about a girl's perspective on it and a guy's perspective on it. Like, a guy's perspective is they do value that somebody hasn't gone out and slept with a bunch of people and given a lot of that to other people. Where a lot of women, and not like specific humans that I want to point out, but I just know generally there's a lot of girls that are out there that say, oh well, I can sleep with whoever until I'm this age, and then I'll decide I'm going to settle down.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize that a lot of men inherently do not value that. They value that they've held themselves to a certain standard, and they don't, just give themselves up. That's not to say that men shouldn't do the same thing, though. Like I also, in the same sense, think that men should also not be just going around sleeping with a ton of different people, and then when they decide, oh, I'm going to settle down now, that it's not going to matter to that person as well. Like I think in a marriage, both of you should limit that amount of people that you've been with or that you've slept with, because kind of to your point earlier when you said like somebody slept with so many people that they lose that connection to be able to, if you're intimate with somebody, you can't connect with them the same way that it's supposed to be and what God intended it for. So if you're going to sit there and diminish that gift that we've been given, then it's not going to mean something to you. And then back to Nico's point, it's like, well, now because you don't cherish that, or you don't feel the same connection that you should, people are more likely to get divorced because they don't get the connections that sex was intended for.
I think a little.
In an ideal world, because I agree, both men and women should have a low body count, if not zero body count, when they get married and have children. That's in an ideal world, because imagine if a man and woman come together and they've never been to, let's say they've never been to Spain or something, and you're able to experience this experience together for the first time. It's a memory that you'll always remember, and it will be something that will facilitate a bond. And think about sex, which is way more intense and way more bonding than a trip to Spain. If you both can experience this amazing thing together, it's going to create such a glue for the relationship, because you're both experiencing sex for the very first time. And I think that is powerful. And there's actually a side point where I don't think a lot of men realize this, is if a man hasn't got structure, if he hasn't individuated, which means become a whole person, according to Carl Jung, when he sleeps around with a lot of women, and a lot of people don't understand this, is the man actually absorbs the woman's trauma, the woman's emotion, and the woman, if she's also not whole and individuated, what she does is she uses the man as a container. So the sex that she has with a man temporarily gives her comfort, in a sense, because she's able to give the man that she's having sex with her trauma and her emotion and all this sorts of things. So that's one thing I think men should actually realize, and I'll make a video on this in the future. But most men, or most people, actually think that the woman is absorbing the man, but it goes the other way. It's actually the other way around, where the man absorbs the trauma and the brokenness and all of these things from the woman. It's almost like post-nut clarity. Sometimes what will happen is if you have sex with a whole woman, you'll actually feel energized and feel better afterwards. But if you have sex with a broken woman, you actually wake up, or afterwards you feel the post-nut clarity, and you feel worse afterwards. That's why you want to leave straight away. You don't want to sleep next to her. That's a big indicator for a man. After he's had sex with a woman, does he feel better afterwards, or does he feel worse? Because if he feels worse, most likely he hasn't individuated and he's not whole, and that she's broken and she's got trauma, and she's trauma dumping it onto the man, which is crazy. This is also why I believe, like I said, both man and woman shouldn't have sex before marriage. Their body count should be low. But in society, men definitely value a woman having a lower body count than a woman wanting a man to have a lower body count. But overall, both genders need to understand is sex isn't just a physical thing. You guys are tying each other spiritually, and you don't want to have sex as a man. You don't want to have sex with women that are broken or have trauma or whatever, because you are tying your spirit to that, and you don't want that. You do not want that.
More tactful way to put what you're saying is kind of women, like we've also kind of touched on already, is women are the gatekeepers also, like you said. You guys are the gatekeepers of the opportunity to mate. So I think on the surface level, if you're willing to have a high body count and sleep with all these different guys, then obviously your standards for what you are going to be intimate with are a lot lower. That's just how that works. To go on a little bit of a deep...
And you could say the reverse for the man. If the man is just marrying just a new woman every year, and then he gets married again for the 10th time with the 10th woman, and the woman asks him, oh, have you been married before? And he says, I've been married 10 times. The woman straight away would be like, wow, he has a very bad track record of marrying the wrong person or being really, really bad at marriage. So as the woman should be like, you know what, I don't even want to be married to this guy. I'm number 10. I'm not even special. When I walk down the altar, this is the 10th time that he's experienced this. This isn't going to be special for him. Plus he must suck at this, because if he's on his 10th marriage, at some point you can't blame the woman. You have to blame yourself after 10 marriages. So flip it the other way around, is if the man now is marrying the woman and she's had 10 partners or 10 sexual partners, and she hasn't locked down a man yet, what is she doing wrong? What is she doing wrong? It's the same thing. So yeah, let's hear him out.
Level, and I think more from your guys' perspective is sex is way riskier for women than it is men, right? Anything that can happen to a woman after a bad sexual encounter can happen to a man, and then some. You know what I mean? Like the big thing being an unwanted pregnancy. Like that's a huge risk for women, right? Yeah, we have a bunch of, we have contraceptives, but still, it still happens. I mean, how many times do we hear about it? So there is that. You said, a man's body count does matter. I think it does matter. I think if I remember correctly, almost everybody here is Gen Z. I'm probably the only millennial here in the room.
No, there's 99.
Yeah, I'm 94. So not 94 years old, but I know I look it, but I feel it. But it is one of those things that I've noticed too that I actually admire Gen Z for, is a lot less of them are going and throwing themselves around than what I saw, like even just, maybe 10 years prior, going through school of like girls would be bragging about the guys they've slept with, guys would be bragging about the girls they slept with. You don't see that as much anymore. So that's a way that I'm seeing society heal itself a little bit.
That has everything to do with our entire generation is in a spotlight now. Like
exactly.
Every single thing you do, like everybody knows about it. If you're out with a guy, there's going to be a post about it. If you're out with a ton of different girls, like you're going to see posts about it.
Exactly.
And everyone's constantly worried about that image that they have. So like, you don't get to just fly under the radar and do all these crazy things anymore as much as you used to.
I do think though, Gen X and this generation is learning. They are under the spotlight, but they are learning from the generation before, and they see how bad it is. They see how those women that are loose and the men that are also loose, what the repercussions of that, and some of them are actually fixing up because they're learning from it. And with the internet and with more information, people are understanding how bad it is individually to have so much sex and all this sorts of stuff. because the information is out there, which in generations before they didn't have that.
Let's talk about women. I think it might be valuable to hear what the women think.
Oh God.
I'm glad to hear that when I was standing back there that it got brought up that body
Both
count should matter
sides.
for men too. Because
Yeah.
I think it's important that because to me, sex is an energy exchange. So you have to be able to, like, I want to make sure that you have good energy before I give you that part of myself, right? Like, and that we can be reciprocal in that. I wasn't always like that, you know? I suffered a lot of trauma from a young age. So my adolescence was a little risky. So does body count matter? No, because my body count, while it might have been on the higher side because of decisions I made as a teenager, you know, that shouldn't be held to me now because I've done the work, I've healed, I've grown. I no longer do that. So I don't want to judge anybody for decisions that they've made in their past. I don't want to judge anybody. A body count shouldn't matter because if you're making those decisions now of going out and sleeping around with everybody, then yeah, that matters.
It's funny because the body count for a woman never matters most of the time, because usually they have a high body count, and deep down they know that it's going to decrease their sexual market value because they have a high body count. So they either have to say what she's saying is that it doesn't matter, because if she doesn't, she knows that she's not going to be able to get a man. At the end of the day, yes, if you had a troubled childhood and you were strayed in the wrong direction, blah blah blah, and you had a lot of bodies, unfortunately, from a man's perspective, it's still not going to matter, because you've still been intimate with so many men, and he doesn't want to be number 26. He just doesn't. And nor do you want to start a marriage or a solid relationship on a lie, where the woman has to lie about her past in order to get the man. That's no way to start the relationship. But unfortunately, if these women have a high body count, they have to lie about it, because deep down they know that it's going to hinder their chances of finding a man. This is why many podcasts, Fresh and Fit, whatever, they say the woman starts at the top of the mountain, and she has to, by having sex, every time she has sex, she goes lower and lower and lower down the mountain. All a woman's job is to do is stay at the top of the mountain, stay pure, don't have sex with anyone and everyone, because that is gonna make you go down in sexual market value. And when you're ready to settle down with a man, you don't want your body count to be the deciding factor. This is funny. Even the song T-Pain, I fell in love with a stripper. The problem is a man, every man, I've experienced this, but you've met a woman and she's amazing. She's amazing. She's funny. She has personality. She has everything. And then you find out that she slept with a lot of men. She's a whore, she's a slut, whatever. You find out that, and it sucks. It destroys it, because she has so many good characteristics, but internally there's something innate within us as men, where as soon as we hear that she has a high body count, she becomes undesirable. Imagine you see a cake and it looks really, really nice. Really, really nice. Everything looks perfect about the cake. And then someone tells you that it's 2 months old. It got baked 2 months ago and it's been sitting in this box. It's unfortunate, because the cake looks really, really good, but it's 2 months old. So I no longer want to eat that cake. And that's the same sort of thing. There's something about finding out that she's promiscuous that just turns a man off, and I don't think it is to the same extent as a woman.
But because of maybe something that you did when you were a teenager, and because of whatever reason, trauma, whatever, shouldn't be held against a person now. That shouldn't devalue them, because who I was at 13, 14, 15 years old is not who I am now as, you know, a grown adult. That is where, for me, it's like, does body count really matter in that regard? No, because I'm not going to judge you for where you've been. I want to see you where you are now. So what are you doing now? If you're doing that now, then that's fine. Go live your life. I don't agree with that personally, and I'm not living my life that way. But, you know, I'm not going to judge somebody for what they've done in their past, per se, in terms of the decisions because of whatever reason. Like in my case, trauma and abuse, which then triggered it to become, you know, more of a pattern rather, you know. So we should, you know, not hold people to things that they've done in the past.
If I agree to an extent, but let's say, for example, if this woman now meets a serial killer and he's come out of prison, or he's a murderer or whatever, he's come out of prison and he says he's a changed man. He's a changed man. And he genuinely could be, just like she has. She's changed. He genuinely could be a changed man. But as soon as she finds out that he's killed people or one person, that is going to change everything. Because now she's gonna have to be cautious that he doesn't do it again. Or even if it's not murder, if he has a past history of domestic violence, she meets him, great connection, he's everything she wants, and then she finds out, or he tells her, oh, by the way, in my last relationship, I got convicted, or whatever you call it, of domestic violence. Do you really think that woman is gonna be like, okay, whatever, it's your past. It's your past is your past. It's a risk. She's taking a risk on that man. Whether or not he's going to commit domestic violence again. And just like the man, he's taken a risk on the woman if she has a bad past as well. So you can look at it from that way. I agree, everyone changes and all that sorts of stuff. I agree, but that doesn't change the fact that someone may look at you differently when they hear your past.
I'd like to state I've been celibate for a year, just before I start this, but with the lock and key statement that was made earlier, I think this is a mindset that men hold. To a lot of men, body count does matter, but I think a lot of women aren't also wanting a lot of the men that are on the market. And personally, like for me, the same group of people that talk about having like post-nut clarity is never somebody I would ever take sexual advice from, because I've never experienced that a day in my life. If I had sex with somebody, if I looked at something, I never thought, maybe shouldn't have done that after. Like, I was decisive in my choices of giving my body to someone. And the same way we talk about a lock and a key, I personally don't want a lollipop that everyone has put in their mouth. So it's like, you can say, oh, you know, it's different for men and women, but an extremely lustful man who has slept with multiple people, I think will continue that lustful behavior. And we've seen this with celebrity relationships. Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. I mean, like, you can be as good of a wife as you can. And if you have a lustful man by you, he will pick the not choosable woman, the woman that is not marriage material, and he'll still cheat behind your back and go cheat with the one that is easily accessible. So I think like this whole, also, if I lie to you and tell you my body count is something that it's not, you have no way to prove that I'm not like telling the truth. So at the end of the day, I think it's truly a mental thing. If you're gonna say I want a partner who isn't sexually all over the place, you should hold that same standard for yourself, because to think that you're going to get into a relationship and all that's going to be magically gone, I think it's really silly to think that. If you are a lustful creature and you have sex with, just about anything just to get your rocks off. In a relationship, you're probably not going to be able to just tone that down. Or
I'm in a relationship.
I agree with what she's saying, that both the man and the woman shouldn't be lustful. And if the man has been lustful all through his life and then he marries a woman, he may continue that lustful behavior. I agree. The only difference is in society, a man that usually is having sex with a lot of women has value, whereas a woman that's having sex with a lot of men, she's going to be seen as less valuable. That's the only difference. That's the difference. But I agree that both of them, both man and woman, should keep their lustful behavior to a bare minimum, if not zero, because it's not good. It's just straight up not good.
When a person asks me their body count, they're not the person for me. I think that's very childish behavior. As long as you're tested, we're adults. I don't really care. I'm not saying I'm going out and being with everybody, but I'm very to myself as a person, and if I choose you, I chose you for a reason. But again, with the
if a man asks a woman what your body count is and it truly is 0, she will not be offended by it. Just simple. It is simple. You will not be offended by it if you are 0. We have nothing to be offended by. Nothing. He's asking you a genuine question. Genuine question.
lustful thing, if you're having sexual encounters with 100 people, it probably shows in other aspects of your life, and not wanting or not having enough in other aspects. And then also the energy exchange. I think giving yourselves body, both men and women, to someone, it definitely plays a part in your mental health. That's why everyone, no matter what gender, should be cautious of what you're getting yourself into. But also women are at risk for higher sexual assault, rape, and I don't think it's anybody's place to tell them how they should heal.
Her whole point already contradicts. She starts off initially saying that she would be annoyed, or she would find it, I can't remember, childish if a man asks her what her body count is, but then later on says that if you're having a bunch of sex and you're having so many energy exchanges, then it's not good. But that's the one way that you can find out whether she has been giving out her sexual energy, is by asking her. So is it really that childish?
Whether that is, again, it's not the most unhealed version, but sleeping with people to get their power back, there's no room to judge on how someone heals. It might not be the right way, but to me, I'm not going to judge anybody for doing that.
Usually it's the man who presents the question and it's the girl who says yes or no.
Correct.
And if it's the other way around, it's basically, unconsensual, which is not.
Yeah, I only said I just said I don't want it to be confused.
I was hearing that wrong, my bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. Because I think, and I think kind of look at it like, do men create it? I doubt it, because in nature, in every other creature, basically, every other species, the female ends up selecting. So I would say that it's a trend, so I think it's a safe assumption that it's the same for humans as well.
I would agree.
So you would agree? Would I'm curious to see your answer. Would you agree that women allow access?
I think, yes, but also if a man's asking 100 people, then...
Well, who's to say he's asking? I mean, he could just, it could just be. But the reason why I ask is just because you brought up the STD and the STI, scenario. But like, if women are presenting that they're answering the question to men asking, hey, the man's asking, can I have sex with you? And she's like, yeah, right? She's allowing the access for sex to happen. So majority of the time, it's predominantly women who are having sex more, which is why that STI and the STDs are spreading more, in accordance to your logic.
That's boss.
I think there's actually statistics that disprove that, like men actually are usually the carriers of STD, and I wish I had the statistic with me, but...
Yeah, well, maybe this statistic is correct, but he's such a good point. More women are having sex than men are. There might be 20% of men that are having sex with most of the women, and they could be spreading it. That's true. But if you have 80% of women that are having sex versus 20% of men having sex, I think more STDs are going to spread because of women if they're the ones that are having more sex. In fact, if only 20% of men are having sex, and the STDs are staying contained within 20% of men, and if those 80% of men aren't having sex, then most likely they're not going to have STIs. It's only going to be the large majority of women because they're the ones that are able to even have it.
And if you are like a sexy, hot guy, if you are asking 100 women, you might get 50 of them to say yes. So, is it necessarily the one woman who told you, yes, I'm okay with that? Is it her somehow fault, or is it the guy that's like putting his dick everywhere?
Well, that's going to be in the portion of accountability, right? You have to take accountability. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
The man's asking, the woman allows him to do it, yes. But at the end of the day, you are in control of who comes in, which is why it refutes back to, a key that opens up many locks is a master key, but a lock that gets opened by many keys is a shitty lock. Like,
again,
that's the whole
I
point.
never want to put a lollipop in my mouth that you all have just shared.
Exactly. So in a sense, you would agree with us.
Where you say it takes two to tango, it does take two to tango, and it takes two irresponsible people to get an STD. So it's like, again, even though I have allowed access to someone to come in my body, right? Because I said yes, somehow like it's more meaningful to me. It doesn't make sense to, I feel like, defend somebody. Again, asked 50 women or however many women in the club that they can, and they're just trying to bag some sex for the night. I think if anything, that is way more disgusting and much more questionable behavior sexually than someone who goes, oh, I like you, I'm into you, I want to have sex with you. If you have someone who's just giving it out because they just want to get it out, like, I think that's, in my opinion, that's grosser. Like, that's nasty.
What's interesting about this question is we're both gonna, like, both sides are gonna argue whether somebody should or should not value something. But at the end of the day, I talk to men all the time. I get to see their perspectives. I also obviously talk to women too, and I get to see their perspectives. Like, I know men inherently value that somebody hasn't slept with somebody as much, right?
I said that.
So like that, yeah, they have a lower body count. So whenever we're sitting here thinking about, the master key or, the lock, when we're sitting here looking at those, at the end of the day, the men are going to get to determine what they value the most, and women are going to get to determine what they value the most. And when you jump into a relationship, I think it's important to be transparent about your body count, about those things. And if somebody's asking about those, it's because they value them. And it goes back to one of the first things that I talked about is, like, if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody and you're good for them, then you're going to share the same morals and values and all those other things. And I know just inherently men value that, and that's going to be something that when they jump into a relationship, they're going to want to talk about that. They're going to want to know that, 35 other guys haven't been in a relationship with this person and slept with them. They're going to want to know that, she is, I guess, more selective with that. She cares more about it, and she's saved that for something that, means more to her. And it goes back to, like, the number of times that you've slept with somebody diminishes what that relationship can be.
I said that earlier.
I agree with him. Actually, a very interesting thing as well is, I don't think women, unless they're very, very religious, and even then I don't think a lot of the time they're even asking this, but like you said, men value things, women value things. Clearly, men value a woman that has a low body count because more men are asking women what their body count is because they value it more. I don't think women are asking men what their body count is nearly as much as the man is because a woman doesn't value it as much. So that was a great point by that guy.
Though I think men have this thing of like wanting to own someone. You do not have access or own someone's past, and you could only hope
but I can sit here and if you have your past and and not you specifically, but say somebody says, I've slept with 35 people, I know me personally would be like, I know that I cannot marry you because that is something that is going to bother me.
Hey, sorry, I'm gonna go on that.
Once again, I also have a question.
For me, that's as a guy, like I'll say this, like if I'm like, I mean, I guess because I don't care as much, right? But like I'm saying, like if I find a girl, you know, like we're hanging out, we're cool, clicking, and then she's like, let's say if it goes for a month or two, then I'm like, you know, what's your body count? And like for his example, she says 35, like. Like, bro, like, especially like how in her example, like she said, like, if you're a female who did this, like, in your past, like, for me, if we are here and now, I was with 35 dudes, but like that shit happened 5-10 years ago, like, bro, who cares? Like that, like, to me, that has nothing to do with right now. Like, you did your shit, like, yeah, like, you know, but it's like, you can't go in the past and like change that shit, right? So it's
beta.
Like, if you,
that's a
me,
beta.
if I value as a woman, like, you got values that like I can see myself with. That one fact that you was like crashing like with lots of dudes back in the day, like I'm not gonna be like, oh man, like you were a hoe back in the day, I can't do this. Like it's like, man, like she said, people grow, people change. Like, you know, I'm trying to look at you and value for what you bring to the table now, right? What you.
I agree. To an extent, as in people can grow, but like the guy in the blue jeans is saying, that I guess the guy on the left doesn't value it as much, and I think the majority of men do value it. I'm speaking on at least my perspective, but I also think that most men do value it, and that guy, that just might not be something he values, and that's okay. That's okay. But I think just not many guys that want a woman want her to have 35 bodies. I just don't.
Did 10 years ago when you were 16, like, you know, it is what it is, bro. Like,
so after hearing all of this, are you switching sides?
I don't want to say I'm
fine.
I don't want to. No, I don't want to say I'm switching sides. I'm saying ideally, I would prefer a woman who hasn't been slutty or anything. But at the same time, like, if you have the values I'm looking for, and like even if you say you was with 100 dudes, I'd be like, kind of like, damn, you know. But it's like, whatever, my turn now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nah.
you know,
Jeez. Nah.
Well, I mean, I think kind of where you're getting at with that is the high body count itself isn't really what matters. I think it's the why. Kind of like what you were saying. Like, if I was young and making stupid mistakes, young women, like, you guys are all kind of at that age right now. I mean, like, where guys, especially like guys who are sociopathic, not that most guys are, but like there's a very small like percentage of guys that are very sociopathic that are just gonna use you guys for your body. And they're very prominent in the dating scene, and it's very annoying as a guy who's not that guy, because every girl who gets played by so many of those guys starts to think we're all the same. And so kind of going back to the high body count thing, like the higher your body count is, most likely, yeah, if you've got a body count above like 35 and you're in your 20s, I doubt you've been in at least half of those as a real relationship, for one. But again, it kind of comes back to the why. Why is the body count high? You know, it's to me, it's more of like a little like footnote, like, well, we'll come back to this later. But again, if I don't find that out until like a month in, at that point, I know whether or not you've healed. I know whether or not if you're Christian, you've repented, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I know that, okay, she's made that change in her life to where she's not going to be a problem. One thing that you kind of notice in a trend is men kind of want a woman that makes them feel special, which I kind of think is why subconsciously the low body count comes in. And then women kind of want a man who's desirable amongst a multitude of women.
Yeah, where does that come from?
I can back that up. It's pretty simple. Like 80%. So if you take 100 men in a room, right, 20 of those men are going to be sleeping with multiple women, right? If you have 100 men, 100 women, right, 20% of those men are going to be sharing that multitude of the 100 women, because 80% of those men can't even get a conversation with you in the first place. Like a lot of men lack just the probability to even communicate with you. And a lot of times, a lot of women will just disregard a man coming up to them if they're the same height as them in heels. Like it's unbelievable.
That goes back to the nice. It goes back to the nice guy.
You two have kind of already answered it, but like you two gentlemen. So I'm curious, because like in my example, like you were talking about the why, right? So I would say the vast majority of my body count occurred from a teenage when I was very, very young, you know, up till 16 years old. Then around 16, I started realizing, no, this is not how I want to live my life. But that occurred because I was sexually assaulted at a very young age. We were kind of talking about your way of getting your power back and choosing hypersexuality.
Getting your power back by sleeping around. I don't know how that works. I really don't.
Choosing to heal, you know, and then trauma that I also experienced at that time, just from other things, caused that for a span of 3 years of my life, you know. So 3 years of my life from 13 to, you know, 16 in that range, you know, I would say I slept with more people in that time than I have in my entire adult life, you know. So it's like, would that, like, if, for example, like, does that still, if the why was justifiable, I guess is my question. If the why was justifiable into, you know, why they had a high body count, and if they have those values, because we're talking about values that, you know, women could bring, I would say, yeah, it's valuable that there's a low body count. I think there's value in that. I can agree with that. But isn't there also value in self-awareness and growth and the ability to, like, come in and, like, reflect and choose to be a better person? Like, to me, there's more value in that. So I know you two have already kind of, like, talked about this, but I'm curious to see what you two would say about that.
Yeah, I think it's subjective, 100%. Because at the end of the day, like for me, yeah, if you come into a relationship and you're like, my body count's 10, I'm not even looking your direction. You are literally like, I'm not even going to reply back to you after that. Just because, like, it doesn't matter about the why. It's a perfect thing to talk about between men and women, because this is an equal opportunity, you know, opinion. You have to take accountability for your actions. You know, if I shoot somebody when I was 7 years old and you know, they're not here anymore, you know, and I'm 27 years old, I'm like, hey, I've changed, you know, but you're still gonna look at my past and be like, wow, he still killed somebody, you know, like.
We can still take accountability and change the behavior. That's also,
I had
people should
something
be
I
held to
also
that.
wanted to say. Okay, have y'all experienced post-nut clarity?
Yeah,
We're men.
Yeah.
I would say it's real.
Me personally, no, just because like anybody that I'm with I'm in a serious relationship with. So
Yeah, but I'm talking about even on the hub, you know? Y'all experienced
no.
that?
What's that one?
She's talking about.
I know.
Oh,
Bro,
I'm
talking about corn.
saying is,
Sorry, my
like,
mom might watch this. I gotta be stupid there.
because I think most women, specifically, most women usually aren't just sleeping with people just to sleep with them. If we talk about satisfaction in bed, most women aren't even having fun. If you look at the statistics, most women aren't orgasming during sex. And I know personally, every person I've slept with was someone that I thought I was going to be in a relationship with. And like you were saying earlier, there are a lot of guys in the dating market who will proposition you. They know that you only want a relationship. They'll court you, and then once they get the sex from you, they dip. So was it my fault for, like, sleeping with?
That does happen. I'm sure that happens, but I think something that women should understand is once a man has sex with you, the dynamic switches. He's got your attention. Now it's her job to exhibit retention. And I've said this before, this is some advice to the women. If you go and you sleep with some guy, okay, whether you know him for a day or for 6 months and you've been dating, and then you have sex with him, after you have sex with him, let's just say he stays the night, wake up 10 minutes before he wakes up and cook him an egg, and I guarantee you that will increase your chances of you just being used for sex. Because once the man has sex, now he wants to see if this woman is more than just sex, and if she is more than sex, then he will consider her for a relationship. But if she doesn't exhibit anything other than sex to him, he isn't going to consider her for a relationship, because she has nothing that shows that she's good for a relationship. That's why I say wake up in the morning, make him an egg, and I guarantee you're better than 90% of women that he has sex with if he does. Because you're actually waking up and doing something that is showing that you have more value and you can provide more than just sex.
So many guys? Or was it like, oh, I actually tried to save myself for someone good, and I tried to I didn't sleep with just anybody. I slept with this person and I thought we were forming a relationship with each other, only to find out I was being played. It was the game. It was, I was being manipulated into giving my body up, knowing, and the person, I always let them know, like, if you don't want a relationship with me, stay far away from me. I don't want to just have sex with anybody. That's not what I'm here to do. You have to take accountability for that. Where's the accountability for men? Because this is something that I constantly hear men talk about. They talk about it's the love of the game, and it's the it's the game, and it's like,
women create the game though. It's like you guys are
It
women
takes
do.
two to tango,
No,
though.
it does.
Women
It
might be the playmakers.
Well, no. So I'll rebuttal back off this. You're presenting that. Where's the accountability? The accountability is like we're in a society that says having sex openly, whenever you want is okay. You have full control to wait till marriage. That's up to you. So if you don't wait till marriage because you got manipulated and that's on you, that's on you.
That's
right?
okay. I'm also not looking for a religious man either. So, that's fine. That's fine.
But you don't
I
have
get
to.
it. You're religious.
You don't have to be religious.
You don't have to
No,
be
but I
religious,
get
yeah.
it. The whole waiting to have sex till marriage, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you got
opinion.
to start a
But
cult.
also, if we look at Gen
What?
Z statistics, we're having less sex than a lot of previous generations.
I see a lot of people where it's like they're sitting there and they're courting for 7, 8 months, and then after they crack, that's it. That's
Yeah.
the end of it.
That's what we're saying is that the crack is the problem. Is if you're allowing yourself to sit here and introduce a sexual relationship too early, that's what, like a lot of you guys have said, is the complication. That's the problem. Every time that the sexual intimacy is introduced, that's the problem. That's what's causing all these issues within the relationship. Then cut that out, save that, and see what happens when you don't do that. And that's
I think the thing that is wrong is your perspective on women.
Yeah.
that is the woman's fault if the man also wants to crack.
no. I'm saying the man shouldn't either. I think it's both ways. I think the man should definitely not want to do that either, because the minute I do it too, you're going to introduce that complication, and that's why if you are going to want a serious relationship with somebody, and you've had all these serious relationships that ended badly because sexual intimacy was introduced too early, then maybe that'd be something that, hey, I cut that out this time and see how that relationship goes.
Can I ask you this real quick?
Also, it's so important for people to realize is sex is such a small part of a marriage or a long-term relationship. So, like he's saying, is if sex is causing such a problem for women, don't even do it. And if the man doesn't want to be with you because you don't want to give up sex, he's not the man for you. So if you're married to someone for 20 years, okay, you're having sex, even if you have sex one every day for 20 years, that's 30 minutes or an hour, whatever, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, that's 20 minutes of your day, of 24 hours. Okay, so it's barely anything. It's not even much of a relationship. That's why if you remove sex from a relationship at the beginning and you work on all these other things that are more like conflict resolution and going out and having fun and spending time together, all these things matter way, way more than sex. So just eliminate sex completely and see if you guys actually bond together minus the sex, because that's what's really gonna matter, because you are doing more other things than just having sex in a long-term marriage or a relationship.
On that, have you ever gone and bought a car, you never test drove it or nothing, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, yo, here's the car, here's the keys, and you sign right away. You didn't do nothing, you didn't look at it, you know what I'm saying? You didn't take it around on the highway, none of that. You didn't pop the hood, none of
But
that.
a car and a woman are incomparable. That's
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean,
don't really work. It's like